The CCP falsified data on its food supply, which relies heavily on imports. The people will suffer in the food crisis.
The CCP frequently broadcasted propaganda that exaggerated its scientific advancement. This is a repeat of the Great Leap Forward in history.
The pension system in Communist China is a Ponzi scheme that cannot be trusted, and the CCP never plans to keep its promise.
Asymptomatic cases emerge in droves as the pandemic resurges.
Fuyang was on high alert as a resurgence of the CCP-Virus epidemic occurred. The man in the clip said the road to Majiacun village was blocked by the urban management officers, and a large crowd of onlookers saw the scene.
On November 18th, many areas in Inner Mongolia were hit by a blizzard. The Level 4 disaster response was initiated. Schools and factories were closed. The 12 counties have different policies. Except for high schools, all other schools such as daycare centers, elementary schools, middle schools were all closed in Chifeng City. The patio in front of Chifeng College-affiliated hospital's emergency department was crushed by snow. Luckily, nobody was injured.
Changchun experienced the extreme weather of sleet on November 19, 2020 in Changchun, Jilin province. The entire Changchun becomes frozen. The trees cannot withstand the weight of ice, all icy.
The street cleaning vehicles were all ready. The rear wheels stopped moving. What happened? Very slippery.
A murder on the street. As a motorcyclist passed by the crossroads, he was ambushed by two men wielding knives. This was a planned murder.
The CCP police brutalized a citizen. The man in this clip said the Ling'an police station beat up a person during their investigation. A middle-aged man lay unconscious on a stretcher, accompanied by his family. A lot of cops in police uniforms and plainclothes officers were at the entrance. The police beat him during their interrogation, so much so he had to be hospitalized. Look at this. Yeah, you're a real piece of work. No, I'm not. What did I do? Weren't you yelling at me? What did I do? Who yelled at you? Didn't you yell? What did you just say?
In the video, 3 policemen handcuffed a delivery boy. The delivery boy said, "I didn't break the law. I didn't run the red light." The police said, "Squat down. You ran a red light. You have to stop if you are asked to stop. If you don't obey the police order, you are obstructing official duties."
The General Office of the State Council issued an opinion a few days ago to prevent degraining of cultivated land and to stabilize grain production. The opinions pointed out that it's necessary to take effective measures to prevent the degraining of farmland, to effectively stabilize food production, and to safeguard the nation's food security. The opinions emphasized that limited supply of arable land resources must be rationalized and prioritized for production of staple food. Farmland regions are given different targets for increasing production or maintaining self-sufficiency levels.
Poverty counties in Ningxia and Sichuan have been lifted out of poverty. A tough report card, Sichuan province today and Ningxia Hui Autonomous Region yesterday announced poor counties have achieved the goal of getting rid of poverty.
The CCP uses vaccine and bioweapons to hijack the world. The safety of the CCP's vaccine is questionable. It may even be a weapon in disguise. Trusting the CCP is a fast track to the crematorium.
The possibility of China, Japan, Korea RCEP coming into effect is very little. As the US election becomes clear, RCEP will eventually end up without a conclusion.
Australian media reported that the CCP is threatening Australia outright. The mask has come off, revealing the nature of the CCP, a terrorist organization.
The Cannon Telegraph laid the foundation for the U.S. strategy towards the Soviet Union. The new Cannon Telegraph annihilating CCP became a grand strategy for the U.S.
It seems like communism is spreading in America faster than this virus is, so it's kind of a play on words to stop this spread. We've seen a lot of other nations fall to the tyranny of communism, like Russia and China, other Southeast Asian countries, Central American countries, even Venezuela, that we have to realize we cannot let that happen here in America, because our fall will be much worse than all those other countries. And as goes this nation, so goes the world.
The Five Eyes Alliance countries issued a joint statement on Hong Kong. Zhao Lijian threatened, no matter how many eyes you have, you should be careful if you harm China.
Well, the federal government has today realised just how serious the failing trade situation is with China, and it's made approaches to them to reopen dialogue with the communist nation. Let's remember, China accounts for around 1/3 of Australian exports by value, and the current trade tensions are smashing many of our important primary industries, including our seafood, our wine and our agriculture industries. Our economy relies on these, and it's dangerously over-reliant on the Chinese, and the Chinese know it. That's why they've turned off the trade tap. It's to punish us for daring to speak some truth to their economic power, and they said as much yesterday. The Chinese embassy in Canberra said, and I quote, "China is angry. If you make China the enemy, China will be the enemy." Now, part of what they said is true. If someone is regularly spying on you and trying to compromise your security systems, if they're trying to infiltrate your parliamentary processes, if they're trying to stifle freedom of speech and thought on university campuses, all the while demanding a leave pass for giving the world the Wuhan flu, I think we can probably conclude they're not our best friend. But China doesn't see it like that. Like all bullies, they think they're the victim.
Are you winning or losing?
Lou, great to be with you. Thank you for having me. We are absolutely winning this case. Keep in mind, this is a motion to dismiss that Mayor Rudy Giuliani is arguing right now against what feels like a whole football team of fancy lawyers from Washington, D.C. that the Democrats have brought in. The merits of our case are strong. What President Trump is contending is that Republican voters and President Trump were denied equal protection and due process. During this motion to dismiss, all the facts have to be assumed to be on our side. We are the plaintiffs. So on the law, this motion to dismiss should be denied. If somehow it is not, the president and this campaign will continue to pursue all our legal options on appeal, so on and so forth.
In my opinion, it's demonstrable with the evidence that we already have that this election had more anomalies, more irregularities, and outright cheating than any in the country's history. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's like Andy McCabe telling us the FBI wasn't biased when they did the Trump-Russia investigation. I mean, come on. I mean, they said the most secure election in American history. There are 73 million Americans who disagree with that statement. And so why don't we just do this, Lou? Why don't we let the process work? Why don't we let the law work? Why don't we follow the Constitution? We got 27 days until the Electoral College meets. So let's just let this play out. Today in Georgia, you had 2 counties. Now, there are 159 counties in Georgia. You had 2 of them today. Just, Shazam, we found votes. We've had missing memory cards. There were votes, and both of them were to the benefit of President Trump. So what's the rush? We had 4 years of the phony Russia hoax investigation. What's wrong with 4 weeks of investigating this election with all the irregularities in all these key swing states? Let's just let the process play out. I think that is just common sense, and the vast majority, I think, of Americans get it. The only ones who don't are the mainstream media, big tech, and Democrats in Washington, D.C. The rest of the country gets it. Let the process work.
A foreign company, Dominion, Canadian company, is so involved in our elections. The Smartmatic company, also a foreign conglomeration of venture capitalists and different entities. 70% of the American voting, equipment is controlled by foreign companies. How is that possible?
Well, I mean, remember, the first people to have a concern with Dominion, the concern with this system, were Democrats. Elizabeth Warren and other Senate Democrats send a letter to the CEO of Dominion and saying, what's going on here? We got concerns about how you're going to conduct elections. We got concerns about the integrity of our election. So they were the first ones to look into this, to send a letter a year ago. So again, I come back to our point. We got 26 days until the Electoral College has to meet. There is plenty of time to figure out exactly what took place in this election process. Why don't we do that? More importantly, why doesn't Joe Biden and the Democrats want us to do that and want us to get to the bottom? All these years, we're looking to send a letter to Chairman Nadler and Chairwoman Maloney asking them, why aren't you guys investigating this? For goodness sake, that's what the Oversight Committee and the Judiciary Committee should be doing. So let's just let it all play out and get to the bottom of what exactly took place on November 3rd.
Because this election has not been certified. We have not made a final determination. Why is everyone in such a rush to judgment in a hurry to declare somebody and essentially just, do a layup for Joe Biden, calling him president-elect? What does that mean?
It's a media fabrication. He's
not.
That's
what it is. And
right.
The media doesn't decide. The media doesn't decide who the president of the United States is. The people of the United States of America will decide and will determine, and we're going to honor that process. It's what our founding fathers laid the foundation for this country for. It's what the soldiers across all foreign lands defending our liberty and our freedom and our right to cast our vote in honor of our American citizenship have fought for generations, and we'll honor them.
Welcome back to War Room. I'm Maggie Vandenberg, and I have a special video for you, my coverage from the Million MAGA March this Saturday. Let's go ahead and roll that.
This is Fog City Midge in Washington, D.C. at the March for Trump, Million MAGA March, the Stop the Steal March. All of these groups came together to stand up for President Trump and to speak out against the election fraud. So tens of thousands of patriots are here. Let's go talk to some people. You came out all the way from Texas to attend this. What inspired you to come so far just to show up to support the president?
Because someday people are going to ask me, where were you in November of 2020? Where were you when your country, the greatest country in the world, was stolen by crooked politicians? And I don't want to say that I sat at home watching on TV and doing nothing. I wanted to say I was here serving my country once again. I served 5 years in the Marine Corps in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I am not going to sit by while the evil tentacles of socialism wrap itself around the greatest country in the world. I will not be quiet. I will not go quietly into that good night. So right now, we're going to come up here and we're going to peacefully protest and we're going to stop the steal and we're going to get 4 more years of Trump and keep America great.
What's going to happen to the country if this fraud is allowed to go through? It'll destroy the country. We're not the type of people who are going to go around and burn down cities. We're not going to do all that. But we're not going to let our country be taken from us either.
It's not about stopping the voting process from happening. It's about stopping the illegal ballots from being counted and having a fair, honest election. This should be a landslide victory for Trump. That's the fact.
And Trump's been fighting for us for almost 4 years. And this is the least we could do, is come out.
Oh, I love the beer passed by. I was crying. I'm still crying. I'm sorry.
He is the best president
ever.
Why do you love him so much?
He does everything right, and he's for the people.
We love you, President Trump. Do not concede. We know you won this election fair and square.
It is BS, and we have to make sure that this doesn't happen again. If they win this time, we'll never be able to stop them again. Another Republican will never win ever again. If you're a Democrat or Republican, I don't care who you are, come out here because this is our democracy. We have to defend it. President Trump, I got your back, man.
And we, the Vietnamese Americans, support Trump. We love the country and we want a fair election. There's no way that the Democrat and Joe Biden steal the election from the country, from American people. We will fight all the way and we'll demand justice for America and for the President Trump. We're here to support We love him. Trump. We love him. He fights so hard for this country, him and his whole family. And we will stand by President Trump and fight until the end.
We need to stop the steal.
Stop the steal.
Because Trump love America, Trump love American, so we love him. We want put Joe Biden in jail.
We're taking over D.C. right now. Like, this is the largest Trump crowd I've ever seen in my life.
We can recognize BS when we see it. So you have almost 1 million people here, I would guess, who know what's going on, who have awoken to what's going on in the media. now they're coming out in person to show out. So for years, people have kept their opinions to online or anonymous, forums, and now people are actually showing up, showing their faces to show support for the president.
This is living evidence that people believe in what he's done and what he said, and he's been definitely the best president of my lifetime. You fought for us for 4 years. We're going to fight for you now. Don't concede. We've got your back.
Another thing about President Trump and the election, he has multiple paths to victory, not just one. You see that many has exposed themselves. Those so-called political and election experts, most of them are scammers. On the real battlefield, you will see who is the general, who is the advisor, and who is the soldier, as well as who is hero and who is zero. This year's U.S. election has shown you who are international politicians, who truly understands history and modern politics, who truly understands Western politics and law. That and everything else, character, morals, ability, foresight, level, everything is exposed for all to see. You can see those people's IQ and EQ. President Trump can win in many aspects, many possibilities. As long as there are ballot fraud, as long as someone manipulated the election, Trump will win, even if he doesn't want to. Is it possible? Such a big country, manipulated by its greatest enemy, the CCP? Ballot fraud, software manipulation, dead people voting, or reporting fake numbers? Once any one of those is proven true, this U.S. election will be over. This is why I dare to say this before anyone else in the world. The 2020 U.S. presidential election is a race between U.S. President Trump and the CCP's Xi Jinping, Wang Qishan. Biden has nothing to do with it. The Democratic Party has nothing to do with it. We have no quarrel with the Democratic Party. In fact, we have many friends there. It was because of our intelligence and knowledge of the CCP's plans. We knew they would manipulate, influence, and cheat.
Global daily COVID-19 deaths cross record of 10,730 single-day deaths. The U.S., which has now registered 256,000 fatalities, has by far the highest national death toll, ahead of Brazil, India, and Mexico. Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine deliveries could start before Christmas. The DRC declares the end of its 11th Ebola outbreak. New York City schools to close again as city fights COVID-19. Trump to represent U.S. at this week's virtual APEC summit. FAA clears a Boeing 737 MAX to fly again after 20 months grounding spurred by deadly crashes. Report says global debt to hit a record $277 trillion US by year-end on pandemic spending splurge.
Dear mama, are you okay over there? Your son is crying and missing you, and sees you in his dreams. You sent take down the CCP, cause it's God's will, it's God's will. So I'm with you, and I'll see you when we end the CCP, yeah.